Business Book Summaries. Today, we're delving into a well-known book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Covey is celebrated as one of the 25 most influential figures in American history. Throughout his life, Covey has met with over 30 world leaders and advised 4 United States presidents. So, what are these 7 habits that have impressed so many? The 7 habits can be grouped into 2 categories. The first set of 3 habits: be proactive. Begin with the end in mind and put first things first. Help us move from being dependent on others to becoming independent individuals. As we grow, we go through 3 stages: dependence, independence, and interdependence. When we're young, we look to our parents for answers, asking mom and dad what to do. We are dependent during this stage. Transitioning from this stage to independence requires us to adopt these first 3 habits. After this transformation, the next 3 habits come into play. Think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and synergize. These habits help us transition from being independent to interdependent. It's interesting, being independent might seem like the ultimate goal, but if you're too self-reliant, you miss out on the benefits of interdependence. Once you've mastered the first 6 habits, you can progress from being dependent to independent and then to interdependent. The 7th habit, sharpen the saw, ensures you continue to grow in an upward spiral. A critical part of all this is our mindset and how it needs to shift. Ever wondered why we struggle to break free from our challenges and live life in a certain rhythm? Often, it's because we have ingrained ways of thinking that we go back to in any situation. One famous example in psychology involves an image that can be seen as either an old woman or a young lady. Imagine looking at a picture that can be either a wise old woman or a young, fashionable lady. When people have a preconceived notion in their mind, it's hard to see the other perspective objectively. You're stuck in your mental frameworks, and unless you reevaluate and change these frameworks, you'll keep repeating the same patterns in life. Stephen Covey emphasizes that shifting your mindset can be a game changer. Consider a real-life example. Covey was on a subway ride in New York when he noticed a father and his unruly children causing a disturbance. Initially irritated, Covey approached the father to ask him to control his kids. The father, seemingly distant, explained that they had just left the hospital where their mother had passed away. Suddenly, Covey's perspective shifted. He realized the family was in a state of shock and grief, and the father was emotionally overwhelmed. Covey's irritation transformed into empathy. This shift in mindset can be a real eye-opener. Sometimes, we judge situations too quickly based on our preconceived notions, thinking we're absolutely right. But changing one's mindset can lead to a more profound understanding of others and a better way of interacting with the world. So, what does Stephen R. Covey mean by a habit? According to him, a habit is a combination of 3 key elements: knowledge, skill, and desire. Our lives are shaped by our habits, those things we know how to do, want to do, and believe we can do. Changing a habit is tough, much like launching a rocket. The beginning is the hardest. The first days or weeks, just like the initial part of a rocket's journey, uses a lot of energy. Once past this start, maintaining the new habit becomes easier. Having good habits is key for transforming our lives positively. But what should be at the center of our mindset? Covey talks about how people center their lives around different things like family, career, money, freedom, or environmental concerns. However, he warns that if our life center keeps changing, we might lose our way. He emphasizes having unchanging principles at our core, comparing them to a lighthouse guiding a ship through life's challenges. The first habit Covey discusses is being proactive. It's about understanding that we have the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose our response, no matter the circumstances. Many people confuse being active with being proactive. Covey explains the gap between stimulus and response, stating that we have the power to choose how we react to things. He emphasizes self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will as the pillars for making proactive choices in life. To truly be proactive, we need to break free from automatic reactions to external events. An example is how we react when something bad happens to us. It's about not easily surrendering our power to choose and taking responsibility for our actions and decisions. Life is essentially the sum of our choices, so we should always strive to make proactive and responsible choices. The first big lesson is about your power to choose. Once, a man went to Stephen R. Covey and said, "I don't feel love for my wife anymore. What should I do?" Covey's reply was simple: love her. The man was puzzled, saying he didn't love her anymore. But Covey stressed that love is an action. It's a verb. Realizing that love is something you actively do means you have a choice. Feeling powerless happens when you give up that choice. That's the main idea behind being proactive. Being proactive isn't just making a choice. It's also about focusing on what you can control. Imagine two circles. One is your circle of influence, things you can change, and the other is your circle of concern, things you can't change, but you worry about. Successful people throughout history put their energy into what they can change their circle of influence. Complaining and blaming others shrinks your circle of influence. So, if you're unsure or struggling, ask yourself, what can I change? Focus on that, and things will get better. It's okay to care about other things, but don't spend too much energy on them. In today's world, many people waste a lot of energy on trending topics or arguing online. Instead, why not read a good book, learn something new, and work on improving yourself? That's where your circle of influence lies. So now you understand the first habit: be proactive. It means realizing you have choices and focusing on what you can change. Now let's talk about the second habit: begin with the end in mind. Covey uses a clear example. If you're going to a place without a map or even a clear destination, how will you get there efficiently? Life is similar. If you don't set clear goals, how can you achieve anything? Goals can be adjusted, but you need a goal to guide you. Every action involves two levels of creation, one in your mind and one in reality. The mental part is crucial, imagining what you truly want. That's what begin with the end in mind is about. The end refers to your ultimate goal. Covey suggests imagining your own funeral. What would you want people to say about you? This helps you create your personal mission statement, your life's plan, defining your principles and goals. Covey also talks about what should be at the center of your life. Some people focus on money or their career. But if you segment your life into phases and prioritize one thing at a time, you might neglect other important aspects like family or personal growth. Covey encourages us to consider what truly matters to us and not to put one aspect of life above all else. Picture this: you're 50, your business is a success, and you have a lot of money. But your kids are acting out, and your partner has left you. Would you still call your life a success? It's a situation many find themselves in when their whole life is centered around just one thing. Some go to extremes, risking their health to gather wealth, thinking it's worth it because it's their sole focus. Stephen Covey says, no, don't get stuck on just one thing. Instead, focus on principles and let these 7 habits guide you at your core. So, what does it mean to be centered on principles? Covey describes it as being sure of your choices, focused on what comes out of them, and feeling at peace with yourself, no matter what happens. It's like having a clear understanding inside you that frees you from inner battles. People whose lives are guided by principles often have unique insights, their thoughts and actions grounded in a solid core, giving them a sense of security, direction, wisdom, and power. This makes their lives fulfilling and positive. The second principle is to begin with the end in mind. It's about identifying the principles that guide your life and setting the direction you want your life to take. What kind of person do you want to be? This applies even to the smallest tasks. Before you start something, figure out what you want to achieve. Setting goals is a vital leadership skill. encapsulating this second habit, beginning with the end in mind. The third habit is all about sorting out what truly matters. Covey once did an intriguing experiment. He asked a woman to fit big rocks and small pebbles into a bucket. The big rocks represented important life aspects like family and vacation. At first, she couldn't fit everything, but then they tried a new approach, putting the big rocks in first and then the pebbles and sand. Everything fit perfectly. The message was clear: prioritize what's important in your life. Often, we get caught up in small distractions, leaving no room for what genuinely matters. So, the takeaway is to make time for what's important, get it done, and then fit other activities around those priorities. It's Covey's way of managing time, focusing on what's important but not always urgent. If you want to learn more about this, keep exploring Covey's philosophy. Now, let's talk about the third habit, prioritizing what's most important in your life. Imagine you have a bunch of big rocks and small pebbles. You've got to put the big rocks in the jar first to make sure they fit. The big rocks represent the important stuff in life: family, dreams, and goals. Put these first, then fit in the pebbles, which are the smaller, less important things. It's a lesson to remember. Always make time for what really matters. After you've got these first three habits down, something awesome happens. You move from being someone who depends on others to being your own boss. You control your time, make your own choices, and focus on what truly matters to you. That's a big leap. The next step is being interdependent, which means having meaningful relationships with others. And here's where the emotional bank account comes in. Imagine you have a special goose that lays golden eggs. You get a golden egg every day. Some days, you might want more eggs, so you think about feeding the goose extra. But if you get too greedy and decide to take all the eggs at once by harming the goose, you end up with nothing. It's the same with relationships. You have to keep putting good stuff into them, like being kind and honest, to keep them strong. Balance is key. Investing in your emotional bank account means understanding others, keeping promises, saying sorry when needed, and giving love without expecting anything in return. It's all about giving and taking, just like how in a healthy relationship, both sides win. That's the win-win mentality, which is the fourth habit. Stephen Covey, the guy who wrote about all this, once showed this with a simple arm wrestling example. The idea is, if a win-win isn't possible, it's okay to agree to not go ahead with the plan. That's a win-win too, saving everyone's time and effort. The fifth habit is about being a good listener. Sometimes people listen just to respond, not really understanding what the other person is saying. It's like if you went to an eye doctor and instead of listening to your vision problems, they just gave you their glasses, saying they work for them. You'd be left dizzy and confused. So, the key is to listen carefully and understand others first before trying to make them understand you. It's all about talking less and asking more. This is called empathic listening, and it's super important for better communication and understanding. When you're having a conversation with someone, it's important to understand how they're feeling without jumping to conclusions or judgments. Sometimes we tend to respond based on our own experiences or opinions, which can be frustrating for the other person. This is called autobiographical listening. Empathic listening, on the other hand, means putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Imagine a child complaining to his dad about how boring school is. Instead of immediately sharing his own thoughts, a dad using empathic listening would say something like, "It sounds like you're really frustrated with school." This shows understanding and allows the child to express himself freely. The sixth habit is about synergizing, which means achieving better results by working together. Just like in nature, where various elements coexist and contribute to a healthy ecosystem, we should collaborate creatively with others. There are three levels of communication: defensive, win-lose, respectful, compromise, and synergistic, win-win, to achieve synergy, respect differences, and encourage creativity. When someone has a different opinion, show curiosity and ask if they're open to finding a better solution together. Lastly, continuous renewal is about constantly improving in different areas of life: intellectual, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual. Read and learn more to grow intellectually. Take care of your body through practices like meditation and exercise. Build meaningful connections and invest in emotional relationships. Develop your own philosophy and values to grow spiritually. It's a continuous cycle of learning, practicing, and persisting to integrate wisdom into your life. With these 6 habits, you move from being dependent to independent, and then into the interdependent zone where you collaborate effectively with others. The key is to keep learning and implementing wisdom in a persistent way, making it an essential part of your being. Now let's explore 7 the habit. In Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he emphasizes continuous improvement in 4 key areas of your life: intellectual, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual. This ongoing growth is like a spiral, always moving upward. In the intellectual realm, it's about reading, learning, and expanding your knowledge. Despite the challenges, the process of learning is invaluable. Physically, you should focus on practices that promote wellness like exercise, meditation, and a healthy diet. On the social and emotional fronts, aim for meaningful connections and regularly invest in your emotional relationships. And spiritually, it's about developing your own belief system, understanding the world, and embracing your core values. The 7th habit, not explicitly stated in the book, is this commitment to lifelong learning and improvement. It's a dedication to consistently practicing and persisting in making these improvements a part of your life. The key lies in integrating these learnings and practices into your daily routine and being, aiming for continuous growth and progress. In essence, the 7th habit is all about the journey of constant improvement and becoming the best version of yourself, guided by the principles Covey discusses in the previous 6 habits. It's a commitment to keep rising higher, persisting in your efforts, and making wise choices to evolve and enrich your life. Consider subscribing to Business Books Summarize, and I highly recommend reading the original book for a deeper understanding. If you have more books you'd like insights on, feel free to share them in the comments.